Welcome to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, episode 274. This is the last episode of the year, and I will briefly, in a few minutes, share with you some of my thoughts as we're reaching the end of another year, and also reflect on how 2022 was for Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I don't know about you, if you feel the same way, but for me this year felt like it went way too quickly. It went so fast. It's been an interesting year, very interesting one, with ups and downs. For me, wins, losses, learnings. And I will actually discuss my personal reflections on the year in the next episode. Today I will focus on the podcast. This was the third year of the podcast, with 86 episodes published this year. About 50 of them were conversations with guests, and there were some interesting new things that happened in the podcast this year. The first one was the amount of solo episodes compared to the previous year. I started 2022 with many consolidation episodes where I would pick a particular topic, for example, limiting beliefs or money mindset or meditation, and bring together snippets from episodes where this particular topic was discussed. I found this a great method of consolidating the knowledge because repetition is mother of skills. These themed consolidation episodes, at some point halfway through the year, transformed into a consolidation of the previous 4 or 5 interview episodes, just going through each of them in my own words and sharing the wisdom that was in there, actionable items, implementable tactics, and so on. And the latest, and I consider it an even more important type of episodes, is the snippets of wisdom episodes, which I started doing towards the end of the year. I have done 5 so far, and in these snippets of wisdom episodes, I select my favorite, most insightful moments from previous episodes of the podcast. And the great thing about these snippets of wisdom is, as the title says, they are snippets. So they are always less than 10 minutes in duration and usually much less than that. So you can, in maybe 5 or 8 minutes, get an inspiring and at the same time actionable tool coming from the expertise of that particular guest I had. And before I discuss with you today my 10 favorite episodes of this year, there is one other thing that I want to celebrate with you and thank you for as well. And that was climbing in popularity from the global 2% that the podcast was the previous year to the global 1.5%. So I want to thank you very much for listening, for leaving a review, and for following the podcast and bringing it to this level. I had said it before that it's my mission to share this message and inspire you to take some action to improve your life. So I am committed to continuing the podcast, and every time I read a review or receive a voice message from you, or I see these kinds of increases in the reach of the podcast, it just makes me rejoice and it makes me grateful for your support in the podcasts. Thank you. I'm doing it for you as much as I'm doing it for myself. So, let me share with you some of my favorite guest episodes from 2022. The first one was the interview that started 2022, and that was with Dr. John DeMartini from The Secret. This was for me a milestone moment because it was the first quote-unquote superstar guest that the podcast had. So it was a great way to begin the year. The conversation was about gratitude, the gratitude effect, and how to use gratitude daily to transform your life. It is an insightful conversation in episode 190. My next favorite episode of the year is episode 200, the celebratory episode 200, which was different in the way that I was interviewed by 𝗍𝗶𝘂𝗀𝗀, a fellow podcaster and friend, and he was asking me about my personal development journey of self-mastery, the milestones of the podcast. So it is me answering his questions, a very unique episode and also a remarkable one from 2022. My next favorite one is episode 208, my conversation with 𝗵𝗶𝘀, a breathwork specialist and YouTuber. And we talked about breathwork as the key to happiness. He also spoke about the minimum morning routine and also how to listen to your body's intelligence. It is one of the most popular episodes of the podcast and for a very good reason. So check it out if the topic intrigues you. My fourth favorite episode is episode 230, and that was with Brian Tracy, the legendary author of Eat That Frog, which I was honored to have a conversation with for my podcast. And the topic of the conversation was self-discipline. Just in case you have not heard of the Eat That Frog, the idea behind it is that first thing in the morning you start with your most important task and you discipline yourself to work on that task until it is complete. The next favorite episode is number 234, which was also one of the most popular episodes of the podcast with Victoria Rader about the 35 universal laws to make money work for you. Victoria is an author with a PhD in metaphysical studies, and these 35 universal laws are always in action, regardless of whether you are aware of them or not. But knowing them is important because if you don't, you can't achieve true prosperity. And the conversation revolved around money as a form of energy, and some of those 35 laws we discussed in the podcast, like the law of gratitude or the law of service or the law of harvest. You reap what you sow. If you have ever said to yourself, if I only had a little more money, this is an episode you must listen to. My next favorite episode of the year was episode 250, again with Dr. Demartini, who came back to the show this time to discuss mastery, life mastery, mind mastery, personal development mastery, mastering the 7 areas of life, and how, in his words, the true you is more magnificent than any fantasy you'll ever impose on yourself. If you enjoy this topic or enjoy listening to Dr. Demartini, it is an episode that you will certainly get tremendous value from. 7th of my favorite episodes this year was number 260 with Matti Lansdown, the psychology of being healthy and how to not get sick and die. Certainly one of my favorite topics, health and being healthy. We talked about shifting your emotional handling, the biology of belief, how your postcode is more important than your genetic code, and also about Western medicine and quote-unquote alternative medicine, and which of the two is actually the alternative one. My next favorite episode is 270, Master the Art of Meaningful Conversation with Alexander Keenan. He talked about meaningful conversations as a superpower that is left untapped by many. He spoke about consciously steering your thoughts, consciously aiming your thoughts into a creative direction. This episode is indeed a meaningful conversation, no pun intended. Number 9 of my favorites of 2022 was episode 233, a very unique episode, my personal message to you who are listening to this podcast, a message from the heart that in a way it was given to me. It came to me as an idea, an inspiration, and I felt I really wanted to share this with you. I know I said 10 favorite episodes, but they are 11 actually, so there are 2 more. Before I share them, one other thing that happened this year, and I forgot to mention it so far, is that the podcast has a new cover art. The new cover art, I feel, is quite representative of personal development mastery as a journey, and it depicts the effort and also the shadow side of things and having to deal with that as well. There are quite a few symbolisms in there. Coming back to the episodes, the penultimate favorite episode of the year was number 253, and that was the first Snippets of Wisdom episode. Besides the fact that it is the first out of this incredible kind of episodes and very useful and powerful, that particular one also has a very strong personal meaning for me about the growth of the podcast and the way that I have perceived it since I had that conversation. The title of this episode is The High Vibration of Appreciation, and it's very quick, it's only 7 minutes. And the last of my favorite episodes of the podcast this year is number 267, which is really one of the most special episodes I've ever done, describing my experience and my insights from doing a 10-day silent meditation Vipassana retreat. In that episode, I discussed the 3 reasons why I decided to do a 10-day silent meditation retreat, about what is Vipassana meditation and why is it called the art of living, and also how those 10 days went in terms of the day-to-day schedule and the roller coaster of difficult days and wonderful days I had, and also about my insights and my realizations from the experience. So these were my most favorite episodes of the year in the podcast, and before I go, I want to once again take the opportunity to thank you for listening to the podcast, and an even bigger thank you if you have taken the time and written a review for the podcast. I would like to share my appreciation to you, and so I will share the 5 latest reviews that I have received. And if you have benefited from the podcast, if it has made a difference in your life, take a moment and share that appreciation by leaving a review of the podcast. And you can leave it on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen your podcasts from. So, the first review I will read has the title Listen and Master Yourself. It's from Michael from Peru, and he says, Agi is an amazing host bringing a plethora of in-depth conversations with people from all over the world who can help you master yourself. Tune in and discover a deeper aspect of yourself with fun, inspiring and relatable conversations. So, thank you very much for this review, Michael. The next review is called Podcast on Vipassana. Dear Agi, this is an excellent reflection of your experience. Listened with keen interest from start to end. I will be following your podcasts now. And this is from Vikrant from the United Kingdom. Thank you very much, Vikrant. The next one is called Worth the Listen, and it says, Agi packs his episodes with content and guests that provide actionable tips to create personal mastery. He's incredibly insightful and will ensure you're getting the gold nuggets that will create real transformation. Must listen. Thank you very much, Storytelling Secrets from the United States, for leaving me this review. And I have two more to share. One has the title Quality Content and Action Steps, and it is from 𝗍𝗶𝗂𝗋163 from the United States. It says, Agi brings some powerful speakers to the show that give powerful content that has the power to change lives. What makes this show so great is that the focus is on practical steps one can take to make a difference in someone's life right away. Not all podcast shows focus on that, and I appreciate that. You can know everything out there, but if you do nothing with it, it's useless. Great show. Thank you very much, Champion. That's great to read because that is indeed my intention, the focus on the practical steps. And the last review has the title True to its Name. It says, a great place to continue your journey of mastery. Each topic has applicable takeaways and thought-provoking discussions. Agi is a great host. That's Latushka from the United States. Thank you all very much for the reviews, and I will be sharing from now on every review that the podcast gets. So if you want to hear your name and your review on the show, go to Apple Podcasts or where you leave your reviews. I will put the link in the show notes so you can find it easily. This was my reflection of how the year has been for the podcast and which were my favorite episodes of the year. So if you missed them the first time around, you can listen to them. I want to thank you very much for listening to Personal Development Mastery, for letting me into your life, allowing me to inspire you to take action towards improving your life. I wish you wonderful season's greetings and also a joyful and peaceful entry to the new year. I will catch up with you again on Monday, the 2nd of January 2023 with the next episode of Personal Development Mastery. My warmest wishes to you. Thank you.